Afternoon, Patriots. Me again, Shannon Fox here, Devoted Patriots 2 channel. And I got a couple stories for you today. The last one's probably going to piss you off because it pissed me off. It's definitely a need-to-know situation involving the spending that's going on over the next 2 months. Just trying to deplete the coffers before Trump gets in. We'll get into that closer to the end. Devastating stuff, and I figured it was going to go down like that over the next couple of months. The Biden administration is shitting on Trump, the American people, and our economy, and stealing everything they can as they sneak out the back door. No doubt about it. All right, folks, let's go ahead and get into the first lot of news I got for you, though. This is good news. This is yesterday and ensuing after the 10-year pardon for Hunter Biden. We now have a motion from Trump's team to drop the charges involving one of his cases. Let's go ahead and get into it, folks. I'll just let you listen to it.
They are citing the language President Biden used when he announced the pardoning of his son, Hunter. The filing reads in part, yesterday, in issuing a 10-year pardon to Hunter Biden that covers any and all crimes, whether charged or uncharged, President Biden asserted that his son was selectively and unfairly prosecuted and treated differently. The president-elect and his legal team has continuously argued that his criminal case would present unconstitutional disruptions to his presidency and that the case was a form of political theater. They are citing the language President Biden used when he...
Yeah, use those own words against him. I would do the same. It was obviously political persecution. If that's what Hunter's crying, Trump's actually got a good reason to say it because it's actually true against him. They didn't go after Hunter Biden because he's Joe's son. They went after Hunter Biden because Joe Biden's a crook and it was obvious his son was in on it. And he broke the law. That wasn't by congressional oversight. This guy's a criminal. No two ways about it. But it is good to know that Trump is now trying to push to toss out this hush money case, as they call it, the Stormy Daniels case, just to get it wiped clean off his record and everything, and hopefully it'll happen. I think all of these cases are going to go by the wayside. Another lot of good news is I do believe we will get Kash Patel confirmed for FBI director. Susan Collins, who is a staunch rhino, usually doesn't do anything to support the Republican Party unless she's making some money off of it. But she actually said she doesn't know Kash Patel very well, but she's definitely going to give it a good consideration. She doesn't have anything against him at this point. He's actually pretty clean, clean as a whistle since he's been in government several times over the last, since Obama's term. He's been in government, so he's well vetted. He has no dirt on him, and so I don't see how they could not confirm Kash Patel. Hopefully all these Trump picks will get slid on through pretty easy, because I know some of these rhinos will get primaried if they try that crap. Now, I do have two more stories I wanted to bring to y'all today. One of them is like a hot mic moment, something like James O'Keefe would do or Tom Fenton would do. Somebody's at a table and there is some background music and it's a little noisy. But it's an EPA advisor just spilling the beans on what's really going on with all that money that got boondoggled out of this country during these infrastructure packages. But first, I want to let y'all know that Mike Benz, who is probably one of the top 10 people I follow or listen to, has now been on Joe Rogan's show. It happened today. I've only got a chance to listen to a tidbit of it, but every bit of it I've heard. He's a wealth of information. I watch him on the Benny show sometimes, Benny Johnson show, so that's why I know who he is so well. But he's in the know as to where the bodies are buried, what's going on behind the scenes with the government. He's like Kash Patel. He is in the know, no doubt about it. But he come on Joe Rogan's show, did a whole 3 hour and 10 or 15 minutes, and his response was, the show wasn't long enough. I could have went on for hours and hours with just the wealth of information this guy's got. But I do encourage everybody, if you got the time, go check out the entire broadcast or several clips of his. I'm just going to bring you one. But this is Mike Benz dropping bombs on the deep state on the Joe Rogan show. Breaking it on down, why this Ukraine war is happening and everything.
The coup and then the counter coup. The coup was great for internet free speech. I mean, you really do need to start the story of internet censorship with the story of internet freedom, because promotion of censorship is sort of the flip side of promotion of free speech. And we've had this free speech government diplomatic role for 80 years now. When World War II ended, we embarked, we had the International Rules-Based Order that was created in 1948. We had the UN, we had NATO, we had the IMF, the World Bank. We had this big global system now. There was a prohibition in 1948 under the UN Declaration of Human Rights that you can't acquire territory by military force anymore and have it be respected by international law. So everything had to move to soft power influence. And so the U.S. government took a very active role beginning in 1948 to promote free speech around the world. And this was done through all these, initially CIA proprietaries like Voice of America and Radio Free Europe and Radio Liberty. And then the whole Wisner's, Wurlitzer, State Department CIA apparatus, all the early partnerships with the media and the war machine around propaganda for World War II continued through the Cold War. And then that hit the gas with promotion of free speech on the internet when the internet was privatized. It was initially a military project, so it was a government operation from Jump Street. And then in 1991, the World Wide Web came out, civilian use. And right away, the State Department, the military, our intelligence sphere was promoting free speech so that we could have a basically government pressure on foreign countries to open up their internet, to allow basically groups that the U.S. government was supporting to be able to combat state control over media in those other countries. So we already had this sort of deep interplay between government, tech companies, universities, NGOs that dates back 80 years. If you look at the evolution of NGOs like Freedom House or the Atlantic Council or Wilson Center in promoting these free speech things. So, but what happened is in 2014, we had about 25 years of successful free speech diplomacy. And then there was we tried to overthrow the government of Ukraine. We successfully did. And I'm not even arguing whether that's a good or a bad thing. But the fact is the U.S. did effectively January 6th, the Yanukovych government out of power in 2014. I mean, we literally had our Assistant Secretary of State for Europe and Eurasian Affairs, Victoria Nuland, handing out cookies and water bottles to violent street protesters as they surrounded the Parliament building and ran the democratically elected government out of office. But then what happened is...
He mentioned Victoria Nuland. I hear that name a lot involving our military-industrial complex and who's actually running the Ukraine war, who started it, who's benefiting the most from it, who's being the middleman, who's actually making decisions. I keep hearing this name, Nuland. She must be one of the head honchos.
The eastern side of the state completely broke away. So we don't respect this new U.S.-installed government. Crimea voted in a referendum to join the Russian Federation. And that kicked off, that sort of set in motion the events that would end the concept of free speech diplomacy as like a U.S. government unfettered good. Because what they argued is we pumped $5 billion worth of U.S. government money into media institutions in Ukraine. That's the figure that's cited by Victoria Nuland in December 2013, right before the coup. $5 billion setting up independent media companies, basically sponsoring Mockingbird style our media assets in the region, and they still didn't penetrate eastern Ukraine. Eastern Ukraine was primarily ethnic Russian, didn't penetrate Crimea, so they said we need something to stop them from being able to combat our media influence. And they initially called this the Gerasimov Doctrine, named after Valery Gerasimov, who was this Russian general. They took a quote from him saying, "The new nature of war is no longer about military to military conflict. All we need to do is take over the media in these NATO countries, and that's primarily social media, get one of our pawns elected as the president, and that president will control."
And that president will control that nation for us like a puppet. There's many hours of, there's 3 hours of Mike Benz speaking. He talks about everything from Zelensky, why the war is continuing, how censorship really ramped up in 2014 because they had to cover their asses for the war that they were fixing to start in Ukraine while they were unseating the current dictator and sliding Zelensky in as the new guy. It was definitely a coup, no doubt about it. They've done the same thing in Venezuela. Our government did with election machines years ago. I hate to see it. I hate to see our government get involved with these other countries because we end up just spending money. In the end, it's supposed to be for the greater good, for the humanity of the Ukrainian
the coup
people.
And then the counter coup. The coup was great.
But at this point, I think it's just a money laundering scheme. Now this here, I'm going to read you this. This is actually pretty new. Only been out a few hours. I've been getting these robocalls. Y'all probably do too. When I was looking for a job, I was filling out like Indeed and different job site apps online. And you have to put in all your information, your phone number and all that stuff. And your email and stuff. And so your phone and your email gets blown up by all these calls. And this telemarketer's trying to sell you insurance, offering you something for free. Well, I've been getting a ton of these robocalls. Even though I've got a job now, I'm still, months later, getting these robocalls. We got free something for you. Free insurance, free money. And I actually listened to one of them long enough that they said it was part of the infrastructure package. I thought, oh crap! I don't want this free money. Even if it's real or it's a scam, I don't want it. And so that's my question when I see a video like this one here. This guy is leader of the EPA, and he is talking about. I guess he's caught on a hot mic. Basically, he's talking about just every penny that is in the coffers from the $7 trillion they spent over the last 3 years in Congress. A lot of that money is supposedly allocated for 5 or 10 years for an agency, for a new project, for aid for some country. Well, when Trump gets back in there, they know they're going to dial, Doji's going to dial some of that money back. And so what they're literally trying to do is spend every dollar they can, put it somewhere, literally like this guy says, throwing bricks of gold off the Titanic. Because they don't want Trump to claw it back. They would rather waste it. And this is what has caused our inflation. Crazy behind the scenes. This is what I call a crime in progress. So they are literally stealing the rest of our generational wealth as fast as they can. This is a crime scene, y'all. The EPA advisor admits insurance policy against Trump is funneling billions, a.k.a. money laundering, to climate organizations, NGOs, a.k.a. grifters and scammers. We're throwing gold bars off the Titanic. It was an insurance policy against Trump winning. So they figured they'd pad their pockets whether they win or lose, and if Trump does win, well, they got to get rid of all this money, considering this is what happened. They signed off on so much money in the last 3 years that they haven't found a way to spend it all yet. And so now they're just trying to allocate it as quick as possible. I guess that's the best way to put it. Now let's listen to this guy here. This is actually sickening. I don't mean to bring you something sour at the end of the day, last video of the day, but we need to be aware this shit's going on. This is ridiculous. Here we go.
Now it's just how to get the money out as fast as possible before they come in and like pop it up. It truly feels like we're on the Titanic and we're throwing like gold bars off the edge.
Who are the gold bars going to?
Nonprofits, states, tribes. We gave them the money because it was harder. If it was a government-run program, they could take the money away if Trump won, and because it was a insurance policy against Trump winning. Until the Trump people come in and tell us we can no longer give out money. I do environmental climate policy things.
Really?
Yeah.
It's amazing. Is that here? That stuff is here?
I mean, because I do like federal government climate things. Well, I have been doing that, but that might change. But
why?
Because it's tough. So we're at the EPA. So a lot is going to change.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I do, you know, the Inflation Reduction Act. Have you heard of it?
Yes.
Okay, Biden's climate law.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Inflation Reduction Act, that was part of one of those boondoggle $1 trillion, $2.3 or $2.6 trillion, I remember. Exactly.
I do IRA implementation. I work with like Biden appointees. The money that we've given out like tens of billions of dollars. Like over the last year, we've given out probably like $50 billion.
$50 million?
Billion with a B.
$50 billion.
Yes, for climate things. So like to go work for one of these places, I think would be really cool.
What are the places that you've given them to?
It's only been a few weeks, so it's a little early. But like green banks, so they're like nonprofit institutions that are like making it more financially feasible to build renewables, to do like climate projects. I do implementation now,
So in theory, if I want to open a scrapyard because recycling helps the climate, I should be able to get a check, right? In theory. Come on now.
I do like how do you spend $100 billion? How do you make sure that like they're the proper? Well, until recently, how do you make sure the proper like processes are in place to like prevent fraud and to prevent abuse and to like ensure that like we are funding like good paying jobs and that sort of stuff. Now it's just how to get the money out as fast as possible before they come in and like stop.
Really?
We were trying to make sure the money went to good causes. We were actually looking into it. This is what he says. He says, but now we're running out of time. We're just getting rid of the money as quick as we can to anybody we can.
Yeah.
You can do that?
To an extent. Just like within reason. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Why not? Because if it's not going to...
Basically, that's where it all is now. I mean, now it all is like... It truly feels like we're on the Titanic and we're throwing like gold bars off the edge.
Does it really? You kind of feel weird.
It's weird. I mean, it's not good vibes. It's not good. I mean, everyone's very sad.
Who are the gold bars going to?
Nonprofits, states, tribes, cities.
Nonprofits, that's the NGOs. States, meaning to these liberal friggin' mayors and governors, basically getting kickbacks, probably getting slid some of them gold bars. Tribes, I'm thinking that's probably more like your Black Lives Matter. I'm not thinking indigenous tribes. And cities, of course. That's how you pass the money. That's how you filter the money out to all these mayors so they'll shut up about the immigrants. We know what's going on.
Anything like in the news that I would know of?
Not yet.
Like any organizations, like...
Well, they're all local. A lot of them are small, not like local nonprofits. This is like a big thing that most of the stuff we funded, but the thing that we haven't funded yet are like the local nonprofit program that like was going to be like a Kamala Harris administration program. So now we're just like getting it as quick as possible.
Right. It's to the tune of $50 billion.
No, it's like $2 billion at this point. But yeah, we've got most of it up, like 90% is out. But
wow.
Yeah.
And what happens if they try to stop it? They can?
When they come in, if you haven't gotten out the door, then they can stop it.
You got like 2 months. If they don't get it out by a certain date, what's that date?
It's the inauguration, the 20th. It's renewed on the 20th of January. Yeah.
So you can work right down to the minute.
It's probably like a little afternoon, but yeah, it's basically new. Yeah.
Hey, throw a couple billion here and there.
It's until the Trump people come in and tell us we can no longer give out money.
Wow.
So that's at the very earliest. It's noon on the 20th. It's probably a little bit after because they have to get in the building and tell people what to do.
Will they come in and stop?
Yeah, like I think they will. I think they will come in and they will issue an order that like all grants have to stop. EPA can't give any money out until we reevaluate anything, and then they'll say we're reevaluating it, and then Congress will say we're stopping this entirely, and they'll pass a law that says all this money doesn't exist anymore that you wanted to give out. No, I think we gave them the money because it was harder. If it was a government-run program, they could take the money away. If Trump won, and because it was a insurance policy against Trump winning. So like these are basically like nonprofit institutions that will cover the entire country. They could have been a government agency, but because they aren't, they're safer from
passing out that money so then people can get them illegals in here without complaining about it.
Republicans taking the money away.
You guys are like saving the world, literally.
I don't know if we are, but like, we're throwing gold bars up at Titanic. Yeah.
You're doing what?
We're throwing gold bars up at Titanic. That's all we can say. We're doing. I don't know.
Wow. That video pisses me off. I'm not going to lie to you folks. That video pisses me off. I don't mean to bring you stuff like this, but truth be known, they need to get to the bottom of this shit, and it looks like the money's already gone. It looks like they've been passing the money out willy-nilly to anybody with their hand out, anybody they can think to give it to. That way they can try to claw some of that money back for maybe another campaign down the road, maybe to fortify their Democratic strongholds with piles of cash. It's obviously good for the Democrat Party when somebody shows up with a van load of money, gold bricks or cash or whatever currency, cryptocurrency, whatever currency they're paying them in at this point. But it was obviously money that destroyed it's debt that destroyed our economy, caused huge inflation that they still haven't spent, but the check's already been wrote. So now they're just looking for places to put it, calling it environmental crap. It's about immigration, folks. That's what I have to believe more than anything. These NGOs, there's some NGOs that cover climate issues, but most of these NGOs, like the World Health Organization, technically an NGO, I guess, or at least works hand in hand with them, Catholic Charities and such, these people are facilitating this human trafficking, and that's what I see. And so I believe they're working hand in hand with the one, and they're paying them in return for their ability to help them slide everybody in the country, no questions asked. That's what I got for you today, folks. I know that last video was a little enraging, but we got to stop this hashtag money laundering, hashtag fraud, hashtag Biden crime family bullshit. It's ridiculous, folks. I'm guessing they're going to do everything they can to ship all the arms they can and money they can. Jake Sullivan said that this morning to Ukraine, just because they don't want Trump to get the money. And obviously in this situation, they're doing the same. That's what I got for you. Everybody have a great day.